Haki is one of the two central power systems used in One Piece. Hinted towards throughout most of pre-time skip, it was properly introduced and initially explained to us in chapter 597. Now the reason I decided to make this video is because I've seen Haki is still not fully understood in the community, funnily enough, especially when it comes to the community dubbed advanced forms. So I decided to make this video as an explanation for all the Haki forms and the advanced variants all in one go. The first form of Haki we'll be going over is Armored Haki. Armored Haki, or the color of arms Haki in the verse translation, is an invisible coat of armor. The armor not only serves as a way to bolster the user's defenses, but it also increases the offensive capacity of the user in many ways. Firstly, as a byproduct of the user covering themselves in the invisible armor, visually indicated to us viewers as the black coating, the user's coated body parts become harder, and therefore naturally their hits are also just harder. It's basically like having built-in brass knuckles. Now the most effective part of Armored Haki is that it essentially serves as an offensive counter to body-altering devil fruits. We see this exemplified when Rayleigh uses an Armored Haki coated flick to hurt Luffy, a rubberman who is incredibly resistant to blunt force. And of course, Armored Haki is how people are capable of interacting with Logia types on several occasions, like Rayleigh vs Kizaru, Garp vs Kuzan, Luffy vs Caesar, etc, etc. Now it is notable that not everyone's Armored Haki is equal. On Whole Cake Island, Katakuri notes there are levels to Armored Haki. This is distinctly different from achieving the advanced form of Armored Haki, and is instead the user simply training the basic application of Armored Haki so that their invisible armor becomes stronger, and in doing so increasing both their defenses and offenses. Or in other words, it lets them tank more and punch harder. Now that's it for the basic application of Armored Haki. Now we move on to the advanced application of Armored Haki. The two advancements in Armored Haki are first Emission, and then evolving that even further, Internal Destruction. Emission is when the user expands their Haki so that it not only coats them thinly in armor, but also forms a force of energy around them, that can then either be used to simply boost their attacks like their punches, or be released in a blast-like manner, which we see with both Yogurt of the Flower and Rayleigh. It is through utilizing this application of Armored Haki that people are capable of coating various forms of weaponry in Armored Haki. We see this exemplified through swordsmen like Zoro and the Wano Samurai. But swords and other forms of short-range weapons aren't all that can be coded in Armored Haki. Ranged weapons can be too, as we are explicitly told that the arrows that the Kuja type of Amazon Lily use are coded in Armored Haki, which is why they have such destructive force. This is also presumably how characters like Yasop, Ben Beckman and Van Olga can be considered so dangerous with guns as primary weapons. Once one has mastered the art of emission, they can now start working towards the next stage known as Internal Destruction. Internal Destruction is when the user sends their Haki into something, whether it be an object or an opponent, and let their Haki explode inside of whatever they sent it into, causing internal destruction. Doing this requires intimate knowledge of emission, since if one doesn't know how to emit their Haki, they cannot hope to send it into an enemy or object and have it explode. Very few people are capable of using Armored Haki to this extent, and to this day the only confirmed users are Luffy, Oden and Rayleigh. Armored Haki is probably the most recognizable form of Haki for both fans of the series and those who've never seen a single episode alike, given its common usage and how it manifests itself to viewers as black armor, which we see in most combat encounters post-time skip. Next up is Observation Haki. Observation Haki grants the user the ability to sense spiritual energy, and within its confines can be utilized in various ways. One of the ways Observation Haki can be used is a sort of long-distance radar to sense living things around you, which does include animals, since Rayleigh demonstrates his ability by scanning Ruskaina for all the animals stronger than Luffy. That streamlines us quite nicely into the second utilization of Observation Haki, which is the ability to sense the general strength of opponents. Haki is a power that lies dormant in everyone, and as you get stronger, your Haki also unconsciously increases. We learn this from two predominant sources. The first is Blackbeard, who upon sensing Luffy and impelled down, notes that his Haki has gotten stronger. This is despite Luffy not even knowing what Haki is at this point. Another source is Rayleigh, who tells Luffy that Haki only truly blooms in battle. Now the series does confirm this to us in various ways, like Zoro saying all the Straw Hats have gotten stronger after each island, aka after each battle, and also Zoro, Luffy and Kobe all started unconsciously using Haki as they got stronger. I bring all of this up to showcase how strength is directly tied to Haki, which is why Observation Haki allows one to sense the strength of others. Observation Haki also allows you to sense incoming attacks even if you cannot see them. The reason for this is because there is a will behind every attack, and Observation Haki allows you to sense that will. See, Haki as a power system stems from the user's will and is tied to it. So for example, if a random pirate, let's call him John D. Pirate, wants to punch you from the left, his will says that he's going to punch you from the left, which is why Observation Haki can read it. It's due to this ability being linked to will that acting without will, relying solely on instinct like Luffy did briefly against Enel, is effectively a counter to base observation Haki in some respects. The ability to read will is also what allows for the next ability, which is the ability to read emotions. According to Rayleigh, emotions are Haki too, and apparently people like Luffy are more attuned to sensing emotions of people through Haki. Observation Haki is honestly crazy, because once it's mastered, it can basically replace sight like we see with Fujitora. The way Fujitora is capable of seeing through observation Haki is that he senses the people around him, so he avoids walking into them, and whenever he's having social interactions, he senses their emotions so he can respond accordingly, the same way we would by looking at body language for example. It's honestly a super cracked ability, and that's without going into its advanced form, aka Future Sight. Now Future Sight is as simple as it sounds. Once you've honed your observation Haki to a certain degree, you are capable of peeking into the future. However, it is implied by Rayleigh that the most efficient manner of acquiring this technique is through battle, since even training your observation Haki for years won't get you there. This does imply that there is an amount of training that will get you there, but clearly would take an insane amount of time, which is why gaining it through battle is the most effective method. The reason Future Sight is different from simply sensing the will of the opponent is because they can sense more than just the will of one action. Based on how the series presents it, they are able to see the future almost like a movie, and they can see everything, including the words that will be spoken, which allows them to do whatever is necessary in the time frame they now know to prevent the future they saw. Something important to note regarding observation Haki as a whole, both in its standard and advanced form, is that it requires the user to be calm. This is most likely why observation Haki is predominantly showcased when one person completely outclasses their opponent or it's early in a fight, and as high level, closer fights with emotional stakes happen and progress, the usage of observation Haki tends to die down. Unless you're Kaido, who for some reason doesn't seem to use observation Haki until you choose to get drunk like 3/4 into a deathmatch. Now next up, the third and final form of Haki is the ever-exclusive Conqueror's Haki, or Color of the Supreme King Haki in the verse translation. Conqueror's Haki is the power to overwhelm, and it embodies the spirit of the user. There are two key differences between Conqueror's Haki and the other two Haki forms. The first is that Conqueror's Haki is not available to everyone. Only a select few are capable of using it. The second is that Conqueror's Haki cannot be directly trained to become stronger. One can learn to control it, but the only way to increase the strength of Conqueror's Haki is for the user themselves to become stronger. Remember how earlier we spoke about how strength and Haki are directly linked? Conqueror's Haki takes that aspect of Haki very seriously. Now as I've already touched on, Conqueror's Haki allows the user to overwhelm opponents, doing so by exerting their Haki in the surrounding area, and if anyone in the vicinity is unable to handle the Haki or will being exerted on them, they will pass out. Obviously, the stronger the user is, the stronger the people they will be able to knock out. We know this since when Luffy knocked out half the fishmen at Fishman Plaza, Oda was asked what would have happened if Shanks tried, and Oda said Shanks would have knocked them all out. Another example is how Joy Boy's burst of Haki at the end of Egghead was capable of knocking out even Vice Admirals. The advancement of Conqueror's Haki is being able to coach your attacks in Conqueror's Haki, and this is shown to be an insane power boost that allows Luffy to go toe-to-toe with Kaido, after advanced armament is proven to not be enough, and also allowed Zoro to defeat King. Advanced Conqueror's Haki or Conqueror's Coding also seems to have the side effect of not touching opponents when hitting them. Due to armament also being capable of this feat, it's implied that having knowledge of advanced armament can help one learn how to use this form of Haki. Key characteristics of Conqueror's Haki are that it tends to be accompanied by large black lightning in modern One Piece. We have even seen when two Conquerors clash that are having advanced Conqueror's Haki, it causes an immense surge of lightning in the surrounding area, as we've seen when Luffy and Doflamingo clashed. Speaking of clashes, when two users proficient in coating their attacks in Conqueror's Haki clash, their attacks don't even end up touching each other, and if both users are strong enough, the surge of Haki ends up splitting the heavens. The strength of both users is important, as Luffy, even after fighting Kaido for a while using advanced Conquerors, was not able to cause a sky split until after resting and both growing accustomed to using this form of Haki and allowing it to bloom even further during the fight. And with that, all three Haki forms have been explained. But there's still a couple more notable things to go over when it comes to Haki. The first is that Haki runs out. Luffy is the prime example of this and the one who explicitly states it. Using large amounts of Haki or simply using it for an extended period of time will cause your Haki reserves to deplete and therefore weaken you over time. It's due to this reason that Luffy waits for Katakuri's Haki to recover before re-engaging with him, as Luffy wishes to beat him at his best. There have also been examples of people throwing their entire Haki reserves at enemies in single attacks and it left them immobilized after. However, I will not be going into the specifics of when and how this happened due to spoiler reasons. Just know that it can. Another notable trait of Haki is that Haki strong enough can simply negate Devil Fruit abilities outright. Haki was already established to be able to nullify the intangibility factor of Logias. However, it's shown to be capable of more than that, especially when it comes to how Haki interacts with the Paramecia class. We've seen Haki outright make people immune to certain Paramecia abilities, as Law was unable to control Kaido and Big Mom within his room due to the sheer strength of their Haki. Law himself is also capable of just turning off the effects of the Sick Fruit by exerting his own Haki, showing how Haki is indeed the power that conquers all. And that is Haki explained. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this, and I hope to see you all next time.